Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. The key skidded and clinked, and Dan froze mid-chew. "I'm done," my voice sounded steady, which surprised me. "I'm Alina, 23, I kept my hands flat. Lily's sneaker tapped the cabinet fast, nervous, ready to bolt. He nudged the key back with one finger. "What stunt is this?" He smirked, waiting for me to fold. "Not a stunt," I stepped once, close enough to smell whiskey. He didn't blink, which told me everything I needed. Lily leaned on the doorway, thumbs flying, screen lighting her face. "Group chat wants pick up at 5, use your car." "No," I watched her eyes lift, then harden. She pushed away from the frame, like a sprinter at blocks. Dan opened a drawer for his wallet, slow, theatrical, threatening calm. "You live here, you pitch in, end of story." "I'm not your spare engine." My jaw clicked and I let it. His smile thinned to nothing, which sharpened the room. "Where are you sleeping then?" He spread his hands. "I'll figure it out." I lifted my bag light on purpose. "You'll crawl back by Thursday," he laughed into his fist. The sound stuck to me like grease I couldn't wipe. Lily stepped between us, chin raised, voice low. "Can you just drive me later? It's important." "You have 2 legs." Dan's eyes never left mine. She flinched at him, then glared at me like I'd failed. My phone buzzed, Mom's name, then went dark again. I let it die on purpose because I already knew. "Answer her," Dan ordered, like a coach calling plays. I slid the phone away and his nostrils flared. He pulled the thermostat cover open like a switch had power. "You don't pay, you don't touch anything in this house." I touched a door, then the truth. I stepped back. His jaw worked twice and his fist tapped the counter. Lily blocked the exit with a quick shuffle. "Please, just today, then you can leave after." My chest tightened because I wanted to say yes. Dan's laugh returned, thin and sharp, bait on a hook. "Last chance." He angled his body, shoulders squared. "You never gave me a first." I held his stare. Lily's phone chimed again, then again, then again. Each note felt like a countdown. I wouldn't survive. I grabbed the key and pressed it into his palm. "Keep it." The metal clicked against his ring. Lily whispered my name, softer than I deserved. I moved past her and his breath hit my neck. The door stuck for a beat, then gave with a jerk. Air hit my face, colder than I expected. Behind me, Dan barked orders like nothing had shifted. I stepped into the hall, and everything finally did. I hit the stairwell door and kept moving fast. Footsteps thudded above me, heavy, determined, too close. "Turn around." The order bounced off concrete and chased me. I gripped the rail and pushed down another flight harder. My phone rattled with alerts before I reached the landing. Group chat stacked new demands like chips in a bad game. "Pick her up at 5, bring snacks, stay away after." I cleared the screen and kept descending, heart first, logic later. At the lobby, the security buzzer screamed for attention. He filled the doorway with shoulders and blame and old rules. "Give back the spare." He held out his palm like a ticket check. "It's already upstairs." I kept the distance and watched his jaw work. "You don't walk out mid-duty." He angled closer without breaking eye contact. "You call it duty when it suits you." I stepped right and blocked. He reached for my sleeve and caught air instead, temper flaring. The guard looked up from a clipboard and froze mid-breath. "Take the ride." He jerked his chin toward the parking lot. "You want a scene?" I nodded at the camera on the ceiling. His gaze flicked up for half a second, enough. I slipped past and felt his heat vanish behind glass. Outside, drizzle hit hard enough to sting and wake me. A rideshare pinged, available 2 blocks over, price surging, time tight. Another buzz came through, Mom's name, 2 words only. "Stop it." My thumb hovered, then I pocketed the phone. Lily appeared on the sidewalk across the street, hoodie up. She didn't wave, just mouthed please, then pointed toward the avenue. A black sedan slowed with tinted promise and bad timing. She took 1 step, then glanced at me like a coin toss. "Wait." I lifted my hand and kept it steady. The sedan idled and the rear window dropped an inch. "Ride's full," a voice called, thin and amused and wrong. Lily wavered on the curb, stuck between speed and safety. "Cross to me." I moved to the edge and signaled twice. Horn snapped at the pause and raised the pressure fast. She darted over and nearly slipped as a bus rolled by. I caught her elbow and felt a shake she tried to hide. I can't stay, I kept my tone low and even. I know, her gaze burned with panic and quick math. Then help me once, she whispered, already scanning for watchers. The sedan crept forward and the rear door cracked open. Get in our car, the driver coaxed through a practiced smile. Not yours, I pull. It Lily back one step and held. The window climbed shut and the sedan slid off slow. Relief hit for a beat, then a new ping erupted. A fresh message landed with a screenshot and a threat. Deposit cut unless you cooperate today, final notice, no debate. My stomach dropped and then hardened into something sharp. Of course he'd weaponize money, I muttered, and Lily winced. Please, just this afternoon, her knuckles pressed white against her bag. He'll find me if I'm late again, she added through clenched teeth. Where to? I asked, already lining up exits in my head. She exhaled like a diver and named an address I recognized. We started toward the corner where rideshares stage during rain. Every step felt like choosing a fight I couldn't dodge. Ground rules, I said, and she nodded without bargaining. If he calls, I'm not answering, and you're not either. The car arrived and we slid in without small talk. The driver checked the app and merged into thick traffic. Lily stared straight ahead and tapped out a short reply. Just with her, she typed, and I knew who read it. My phone lit again with a final ultimatum and a timer. Return now or lose access to the house before nightfall. The words did their job, fear first, anger second, clarity last. I killed notifications and watched our turn approach like a cliff. We stopped at a red light that wouldn't change fast enough. Lily lifted her sleeves and hid them again, too late. Fresh marks, not dramatic, still loud enough to rewrite plans. Who? I asked, and her jaw tightened like a locked door. Not here, she stared out, then blinked hard and swallowed. The light flipped and the car lunged toward the address. Every instinct screamed to reroute and blow up the day. I stayed the course and saved the detour for impact. As we neared, a familiar truck rolled out of the driveway. He sat inside with a grin that forecast trouble. Our driver slowed and glanced in the rearview for guidance. Keep going, I said, and Lily's breath hitched once more. The truck swung in behind us and matched our speed. No siren, no reason, just pressure, close and deliberate, ugly. I leaned forward and asked the driver for a quick loop. We turned hard right and the truck followed like a magnet. Change drop-off, I told the app with fast fingers. An alternate address popped up 4 blocks away, clinic hours listed. Head there, I said, and the driver nodded with relief. The truck lagged at the next light, blocked by a delivery van. Lily's shoulders sank, then squared like a new person taking shape. I'll go in, she said, voice tight but chosen. I'm walking you inside, I answered, ready for the fallout. She didn't argue, which told me the storm was close. We jumped from the car and cut for the clinic doors. The truck rolled past the corner, slow and hunting for us. Inside now, I pushed the handle and felt resistance catch. A security buzzer sounded twice and my pulse answered it. The desk worker lifted a hand for quiet and focus. 2 check-ins, I kept my voice calm and gave first names. Confidential visit, I tapped the sign about privacy and stared back. Keys rattled somewhere behind the counter, then the lock clicked open. Lily hovered just behind my shoulder and kept breathing shallow. Do you want me with you? I asked without pressure. She nodded once and squeezed my wrist hard enough to bruise. I took that as permission and braced for impact. My phone lit with a new number that felt familiar. I ignored it as the screen filled with more buzzes. The third ring used Mom's tone and I almost broke. I slipped it face down and the tremor traveled up. A nurse opened the inner door and scanned our faces. This way, she led with brisk steps and no judgment. We followed through a short hall that swallowed echoes fast. Any immediate danger? She asked and Lily's eyes watered. He grabbed me last night, Lily forced out between tight breaths. Not him, she flicked her chin toward the street and flinched. Someone from the team, she added, barely above a whisper. That detail shifted everything and sharpened the next choice. File a report here or off-site, the nurse offered with care. Lily looked at me and searched my face for direction. We document now, I answered, and her shoulders settled slightly. The nurse nodded once and reached for a discreet form. The truck engine rumbled outside again and then idled. I moved to the window and saw a silhouette pacing. Dan's stance carried patience he rarely used with me. He tipped his head toward the door like he owned it. Another text arrived with a promise that stung like a slap. Allowance gone by sundown unless you return with Lily. He added a photo of our building lobby for pressure. My jaw locked and something final formed behind it. Use the side exit when you leave, the nurse suggested quietly. Security can walk you to a rideshare if needed. I thanked her and signed as witness W. Here indicated. Lily's hand stopped shaking long enough to write her initials. A staff advocate entered with a steady voice and clear plan. They can't demand access to your medical details, she said. We can call the hotline together or give you space. Lily drew a breath like a swimmer and chose the call. While she spoke, I opened the banking app and stared. The shared account reflected a pending freeze and 2 withdrawals. He moved money at lunchtime while we redirected our route. My cheeks burned and the last rope inside me snapped. Another buzz came through, Mom again, short and cutting this time. Stop inflaming things, bring your sister home by 4. I typed one line and kept my thumb hovering. We are safe, we are not coming back today. The advocate finished notes and handed Lily a resource card. Do you have a place for tonight? She asked gently. Yes, I said it before I had proof or keys. My mouth committed first so my legs would follow. We reached the side corridor as doors opened near reception. Dan's footsteps carried that controlled fury I always recognized. A guard stepped into view and blocked the main path. The nurse pointed toward the emergency exit with a look. We slipped through and the alarm chirped a tiny warning. Rain hit hard enough to mask the building noises outside. I ordered a car and selected a meet point 2 blocks away. Lily tugged my sleeve when tires squealed at the corner. The truck crept along the curb and paused at the hydrant. Windows stayed up and my skin prickled at the stillness. Walk like we belong here, I murmured, and she matched pace. We rounded the alley and the ride pulled in tight. We climbed in and locked doors before I gave instructions. Take us to the station, I told the driver without pause. Lily braced her feet and kept both hands visible. In the mirror, the truck grew smaller and then vanished. At the platform entrance, I bought 2 passes with shaking fingers. Are you sure? Lily whispered, looking at the departure board. We need distance before they regroup, I answered with certainty. The plan hardened inside me like a ladder I could climb. We stood near the far gate and waited for the arrival. My phone vibrated again with a message I refused to open. Lily leaned into me for a half second and steadied. Thank you, she said, and the words carried a new weight. The train slid in and doors parted like a dare. Move, I guided Lily through the gap and scanned the platform. A familiar pickup nosed along the curb outside the glass. We stepped inside as the chime warned us twice. We grabbed the aisle seats and faced forward on purpose. Lily pulled her sleeves down and fixed her posture. Phones on airplane, I said, and she followed without debate. The carriage lurched and the city peeled away in stuttering frames. An unknown number flashed before airplane mode caught it. I watched it vanish and felt my pulse steady. We switch lines at North Junction, I said with a nod. She swallowed hard, then mirrored my nod like a pact. A conductor punched tickets and glanced at our faces. Everything all right? He asked, resting a hand on the seatback. We're fine, I answered, and he moved on without fuss. Lily pressed her knees together until they stopped shaking. I opened the notes app and started a list. Photos of injuries, timeline, names, threats. Help me log, I said and handed her the phone. She typed quickly and paused whenever memory fought back. The train slowed near a siding and clattered over switches. 2 men in team warm-ups waited on the next platform. Lily stiffened and stared at the floor like it might help. We change cars at the stop, I whispered, already rising. Doors opened and the air outside carried that wet chill. We crossed to the next carriage and blended behind a family. One of the men noticed and lifted his chin toward us. The doors closed before he could squeeze through the crowd. Breathe, I said, matching her rhythm until it eased. My hand shook anyway, so I gripped the metal pole. A new message found the smartwatch on my wrist. He threatened to box my clothes and leave them curbside. "Not your call," I muttered, and the words tasted iron. I texted a neighbor, short, urgent, no explanations. "Can you hold a bag if it appears at noon?" 3 dots pulsed, then a yes landed like a lifeline. We pulled into North Junction under heavy foot traffic. "Transfer upstairs," I pointed, and we moved with purpose. On the mezzanine, I caught security's eye and tilted my head. He tracked our line change and gave a tiny nod. We boarded the next train, heading back the opposite way. The maneuver put 8 more stations between us and home. Lily checked the window and relaxed a fraction. "I can tell, coach," she whispered and then went quiet. After we're safe, I kept my tone level for her. She nodded and tightened her ponytail like gearing up. I messaged the non-emergency line with a call. "LL back request. Civil standby needed for belongings retrieval, possible aggression expected." The reply came fast with a time and meeting point. I sent it to the neighbor with a thumbs up. "Escort at 1, I told Lily, and my stomach turned. She blinked twice, then squared her shoulders like acceptance. At noon, the train doors opened onto our transfer street. We exited with the commuters and took the outer stairs. A rideshare driver waved from the far lane and accelerated over. We got in and kept our bags on our laps. My smartwatch buzzed again with a photo that twisted my gut. Our mailbox sat open, envelopes scattered in the stairwell. "Bring the kid back and you get this stuff untouched." I silenced the alert and focused on the driver's mirror. "Detour 1 block north," I requested, voice steady but clipped. He merged left and took the longer loop without protest. We approached the station where the officers would meet us. 2 patrol uniforms stood under the awning with notepads ready. "Quick version," I said, and matched their brisk cadence. They outlined boundaries and what they could enforce today. "Stay public, keep recording if anyone confronts you." I agreed and felt that thin shield settle over us. We caravanned to the building with the cruisers leading. The pickup appeared ahead, parked crooked near the entrance. Doors opened and closed as figures shifted positions, alert and wired. The officers stepped out first and opened their palms for calm. "Retrieve the essentials now," one instructed with measured authority. I moved toward the stairs while keeping Lily behind them. At the top landing, the apartment door hung on a latch. I touched it and watched it creep open like an invitation. I pushed the door and it swung wide into voices. "Back up," an officer warned, palm raised between us and Dan. He stood in the hallway with a contractor bag and a grin. "5 minutes," he said, tapping his watch like a threat. I set my phone to record and kept the lens low. "I'm collecting documents and medications only," I announced for the camera. Lily hovered behind the officer and gripped her backpack straps. Dan's smirk tightened as he shifted to block the bedroom. "Move aside," the second officer instructed, tone clipped and official. Dan stepped a half pace, not enough, testing boundaries. "Full access to her property," the officer added, eyes unreadable. Dan finally retreated 2 steps and muttered something under breath. I went straight to the desk and yanked the top drawer. Empty, he'd cleared everything except a single expired bus card. "Where are the files?" I asked, keeping my voice flat. He leaned on the doorframe and rolled his shoulders in delight. "Storage unit, pay the balance, get your treasures," he shrugged. The officer wrote that line down without looking up. "Produce IDs now," the officer requested, pen still moving. Dan opened a cabinet and tossed a folder to the floor. "Passports, insurance, a spare debit card I never saw." I scooped them fast and zipped them into my inside pocket. Lily stood in the doorway, eyes on his hands, jaw clenched. He met her stare and tilted his head like a dare. "Come home after this," he told her, voice oily and calm. She flinched, then focused on my shoes instead of his face. The officer cleared his throat and angled his body between them. "Keep statements directed to me, not them," he warned sharply. I photographed the empty drawers for the record and moved on. Closet shelf bare, nightstand bare, a single envelope under the bed. I slid it out and felt my pulse kick hard. Inside lay a team waiver with Lily's forged signature and date. "Who signed this?" I asked, holding it up for the camera. Dan tugged at his collar and looked past me to nowhere. Lily whispered, "That's not mine," and her fingers trembled. The officer took the paper and photographed it twice for evidence. Footsteps echoed on the stairs and the building went quiet. Mom rounded the corner, hair damp, phone in a tight grip. "End this circus," she said, eyes hopping between our faces. "Lily, grab your things, we're leaving with him." No, the word left me before I weighed it. Mom's eyes narrowed and flicked to the officers, then back. "You're poisoning her," she said, voice low and controlled. Lily's breath quickened and she took one small step behind me. "Residence change documented," the officer noted, pen tapping the pad. "Any attempt to detain will result in removal." Mom pressed her lips together and looked to Dan for backing. He shrugged like this was all inconvenience, no big deal. My smartwatch buzzed with a new alert from the bank. Another withdrawal, odd amount, pulled minutes ago from the joint account. I lifted the screen to the officers without commentary. "Screenshot that," one advised, nodding toward my camera. Dan reached for Lily's wrist and the room snapped tight. The nearest officer intercepted with one arm and a warning. "Huh? NDS off," he said, stance widening for emphasis. Dan's jaw flexed and his smile finally broke. "Finish up," the second officer urged me, eyes cutting to the door. I grabbed the medication box from the bathroom shelf. Lily pressed her phone into my palm with a quiver. "Coach just texted me to keep quiet or I'm benched." "We have your report on record," I told her fast. "We'll forward the forged waiver to the league office." Her shoulders lifted once, then settled with heavy resolve. Dan paced 3 steps and kicked the contractor bag toward me. "Take your junk," he snapped, face flushed with contained rage. The bag split and spilled clothes and mail and a library notice. At the bottom, an open envelope flashed a partial rent receipt. I pocketed the slip and photographed the pile for timestamp. Mom moved closer and lowered her voice like an ultimatum. "You're burning bridges you will need in 2 months." "I needed them last night," I answered, vision steady and cold. Silence filled the hallway until the officer cleared his throat. "We're done," he announced, nodding toward the exit with authority. I shouldered the bag and motioned for Lily to follow. Dan blocked once more like a final performance. The officer stepped forward and Dan finally sidestepped with a hiss. On the landing, Mom reached for Lily's elbow without warning. Lily flinched and pulled free, then faced her squarely. "I'm leaving with her today," she said, voice clear and hard. Mom blinked fast, then looked past us as if rescued by noise. A deep horn sounded outside and my stomach knotted. Dan's work truck idled at the curb with 2 teammates inside. One of them looked up at the windows and lifted a phone. The officer noticed, then radioed for another unit immediately. "Back door," the officer urged, guiding us down the side stairs. I kept the camera rolling and my steps quick but careful. Lily matched pace and did not look back once. We reached the alley and the cruiser eased into view. "Where now?" the driver asked through a cracked window. "Transit hub," I answered, then changed it mid-breath. "Hotel near the station, no walk-ins, card on file." The officer nodded and filed the request into the log. We slid into the rear seat and doors thumped shut. My phone buzzed again, new number, voicemail loading with menace. I put it on speaker and let it play for witnesses. Dan's voice promised storage fees, withheld mail, and a visit tonight. The officer marked time and saved the recording to the case. "File for a protection order first thing morning," he advised. "Switch banks today and lock every login." I met Lily's eyes and saw a steadier person forming. As we pulled away, my screen lit with a final message. Mom's text read 6 words that landed like a verdict. "You chose her over your family again." I stared at the line until something inside me clicked hard. The hotel lock flashed red once, then green, and we slipped in. I slid the chain, killed the ringer, and set a wake alarm. "Airplane mode stays," I told her, and she nodded without argument. The room phone rang anyway, a front desk call waiting below. I answered with 2 words and no greeting. A clerk reported a welfare check request lodged by a guardian. "Not authorized," I said, then gave the report number for verification. Silence, a swallow, then he promised to block unlisted visitors. I opened the banking app and started the split. New account created, transfers queued, alerts rerouted to my email. The shared card pinged another attempt and then failed. I screenshotted the decline and felt my shoulders loosen a notch. Lily paced and watched the peephole like it would blink. "We log tonight," I said and placed the notepad down. She recorded a short statement with clear dates and names. Each line tightened her voice and sharpened her aim. My email chimed with a reply from the advocate. Attach the forged waiver and hospital record to the complaint. I sent the files and CC'd league compliance without hesitation. A read receipt popped up fast, which meant eyes were on us. A knock landed, 3 quick, 1 slow, and my pulse jumped. "Front desk," a woman called, papers rustling close to the door. "We need a signature for your rate adjustment tonight." "No," I answered, and the bolt felt suddenly thin. Footsteps moved away, then stopped, then shifted again. Lily leaned in and whispered that the voice sounded coached. I messaged the front desk by app to confirm the visit. They wrote back immediately, no one had been sent. The fire alarm blared and the hallway filled with footfalls. I grabbed our IDs and pointed to the service stairwell. We joined a stream of guests and kept our heads down. At the landing, I spotted him 1 flight below, waiting. He looked up and clocked us with a small tilt. "Back," I said, and we reversed into the other stair. 2 teenagers squeezed past and broke his line of sight. We pushed through a door onto the maintenance level. A houseman stared, then waved us behind the laundry carts. I dialed emergency and kept the whisper steady and clipped. "Subject on premises in violation of hotel policy." Security converged fast, radios crackling, boots moving with purpose. The alarm cut and a manager ushered us to an office. "We can locate you under a different name tonight." "Yes," I replied, and handed over the police case number. She copied it and promised a ban notice at the desk. My watch buzzed with a voicemail transcribed in jagged phrases. "Bring her downstairs now or the truck stays outside all night." I forwarded the message to the officer and blocked the number. Lily watched my thumb press block and exhaled like a decision. We moved to a new floor using a staff elevator. The manager swiped us in and wished us a quiet evening. "Call if anyone knocks again," she added with steady eyes. I liked that she said anyone, not just him. In the room, I drafted the affidavit for court. Dates, screenshots, audio clips, each entry tightened the chain. Lily composed her withdrawal letter to the team and paused. "Send it," I said, and her finger hovered, then tapped. My inbox pinged from the landlord with a terse update. Someone tried our mailbox again and left the panel ajar. Cameras saved the footage for pickup in the morning. I flagged it for the officer and logged the attempt. Mom's text came through from a new number with rushed punctuation. "Open the door for the welfare check or I call child services." I typed slowly and kept my hands from shaking. "She is safe with me, do not contact us again." A minute later, another message arrived from a private account. Photo of the hotel lobby with a timestamp from 5 minutes ago. We were not in the frame, but the escalator was. I closed the curtains and felt the old guilt try to speak. "Phone settings," I told Lily, and we killed location sharing. We removed family access, changed passwords, and wiped recent devices. I deleted every shared album and archived the proof locally. The last tether snapped so quietly it almost felt kind. The desk called back with a plan in crisp steps. Security would escort us to an early ride at dawn. Police would meet us at the courthouse side entrance. I wrote it on my hand so I wouldn't bargain later. Night settled like a dare we refused to accept. We brushed our teeth in silence and kept socks on. I wedged the luggage cart against the door for weight. A shadow paused under the threshold, then slid away. Dawn hit and security walked us to the rideshare bay. I kept my jaw tight and my eyes moving. Lily carried the folder pressed flat against her chest. We climbed in and left before the lobby could yawn. At the courthouse entrance, an officer checked our case number. "File protection and emergency custody orders upstairs," he said briskly. We passed through scanners and took the stairs 2 at a time. My heartbeat set the cadence, a metronome for action. The clerk slid packets across the counter with practiced efficiency. "Affidavits first, attach screenshots, keep timelines clean." I perched at a public desk and started printing letters on 2 lines. Lily wrote her statement with careful strokes like each word mattered. A deputy stepped in with a clipboard and a neutral face. Hearing can happen today if the judge is available. Today works, I answered, and my mouth dried instantly. He marked the docket and signaled to keep writing fast. My phone vibrated with a message from the landlord. Video available for pickup at 8:45 sharp. I forwarded the time to the deputy without commentary. Bring it to the courtroom, he said, ticking another box. We walked documents to the window and signed the last page. The clerk stamped each sheet with crisp authority and a thunk. Wait near courtroom D for calendar call, she instructed. The bench outside felt like a balance beam I refused to miss. A familiar cologne reached us before the hallway filled. He turned the corner with sunglasses and a fresh haircut. Mom followed 2 paces back, phone raised like a shield. Lily stiffened and gripped the folder until the edges bit. Come home now, Mom said, voice low and urgent. Not happening, I replied, keeping my back to the wall. He flicked his gaze over the deputy and smirked. We're here for family restoration, he announced to the air. Names, the deputy requested, posture squared for control. He rattled them off and gave our address like a dare. Lily flinched and the deputy wrote a note with pressure. Do not broadcast addresses in this hallway, the deputy warned. The bailiff opened the courtroom and called for parties. We entered with the folder and took the right row. He sat left, leaned back, and crossed his legs slow. Mom slid beside him and whispered into her sleeve. A young assistant from the advocate's office arrived breathless. I can stand with you for this hearing, she offered. I nodded and handed her the forged waiver copy. She scanned it once and whistled under her breath. The judge appeared and the room adjusted instantly. Calendar moved briskly through quick matters and continuances. Our case number was called with a pause before it. We stood as the bailiff motioned us to the table. Do you fear harm if contact continues? The judge asked. Yes, I answered, steady and loud enough for record. Supporting details attached, the assistant added while sliding exhibits. The judge skimmed the screenshots, then looked up at me. Who controls the shared funds? The judge asked next. He has been withdrawing without consent, I replied flat. The assistant handed over the bank declines with timestamps. The judge tilted her head and made 3 quick notes. Respondent, the judge said, eyes moving to the left table. He uncrossed his legs and smiled like cameras were present. We are correcting miscommunications, he began, voice polished and slow. Stop, the judge cut in, palm raised for silence. Why is there a forged team waiver? The judge asked. He blinked and glanced at Mom for a cue. Administrative error, he offered, smoothing his tie with care. The judge stared as if measuring that phrase for weight. The bailiff accepted a USB from the landlord's representative. Hallway footage from last night queued up on the screen. He appeared on video opening the mailbox with a thin tool. The judge watched the clip twice, then fixed him with stillness. Temporary protection granted for both petitioners, the judge ruled. No direct or indirect contact until the return date. Residents' access limited to 1 supervised retrieval with police. Financial interference will be treated as contempt. Mom rose halfway and put a hand on the table. My daughter needs, she started, breath breaking on the word. She has counsel through advocacy, the judge answered without heat. Sit down or step out for the remainder. We signed copies while the deputy printed the service forms. He took the stack across the aisle with professional distance. Consider yourself served, the deputy stated, voice calm and final. The sunglasses came off and the mask slipped. Enjoy your victory lap, he muttered, letting the smile die. He gathered his jacket and bumped the chair on purpose. Mom followed, eyes hard, thumbs still working the phone. Lily exhaled like a rope releasing from around her ribs. Outside the courtroom, the advocate's assistant squeezed my shoulder. Next stop is the station to file addendums, she said. I'll email the league and attach the order right now. Her speed matched the urgency in my bones. We rode the elevator with 2 deputies and a janitor. At the ground floor, the doors opened to a commotion. 2 teammates waited near the exit with crossed arms. They spotted Lily and shifted like blockers. Keep moving, a deputy instructed, hand near his radio. We walked past them without breaking stride or eye contact. One whispered something ugly and tried to keep pace. The deputy's presence cut the orbit like a blade. The station lobby felt like a barricade that finally held. We filed the additional details and uploaded the voicemails. The officer asked for a fresh list of numbers used. I handed over the latest block list without a word. A detective stepped out and asked for a 5-minute briefing. We outlined the mailbox tampering and the stairwell ambush. He nodded at the video stills and leaned forward. Expect pushback today, he said, so plan your moves. Hotel is flagged, I answered, new alias in place. Good, he said, tapping a note on his pad. Couriers are serving the team with notice this afternoon. Lily straightened and held the folder tighter. We left the station and crossed to a credit union. I opened an account with a fresh mailing address. Lily added hers and signed with a hand that didn't shake. We walked out lighter and a little taller. My phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I let it roll to voicemail while we hailed a ride. Transcript hit my inbox with 4 short lines and a deadline. Return the kid or we go to her coach's boss. I forwarded it to the detective and the advocate. Both replied within minutes with the same instruction. Do not engage, every message strengthens your petition. That sentence felt like scaffolding I could finally climb. We met the landlord by the mailboxes and retrieved the drive. He pointed to the maintenance log and shook his head. Never seen him this brazen, he muttered under his breath. I signed the chain of custody form and thanked him twice. At the hotel, the manager handed us new keycards. Different floor again, escort available on request. Please, I said, and she radioed a guard with quick efficiency. We moved like a small convoy through the corridor. Inside the room, I opened the laptop and organized evidence. Tabs lined up like soldiers, each one a small defense. Lily drafted a public statement for her team account. Short, direct, no names, I said, and she nodded. Her post went live at 2:03 sharp. I watched the view count climb like a warning bell. Support poured in, then a handful of veiled threats. I captured every handle and sent them to the detective. Mom's message arrived from a third number almost immediately. If you cared about family, you would answer once. I typed slowly to control my breathing and the shake. We have a court order, do not contact again. Silence held for 10 full minutes like a test. Then a final ping arrived from his account with punctuation missing. You made enemies by doing this and they won't forget. I blocked it and stared at the blank screen until it steadied. The advocate called with a development and a tight tone. League has suspended the player pending inquiry, she said. Your statement triggered policy review for adult supervision. Lily closed her eyes and let one tear fall and stop. I booked a longer stay using the new card and alias. The manager printed a confirmation and stapled the incident number. Tomorrow we can move you to a quieter wing, she offered. Tonight, security sits on your door in rotations. Dinner arrived as a knock and a password exchange. I checked the peephole and the code before opening an inch. We ate without talking much and scraped the plates clean. Hunger always returns when adrenaline finally stops shouting. Afterwards, I took the order and read every clause again. No calls, no messages, no third-party communications. Violations equal arrest on site within the county. My shoulders settled into a posture I had not felt in years. Lily stretched her arms and flexed fingers like new tools. Do we tell Mom anything else? She asked without hope. Nothing, I answered, and the word felt like a door. She nodded once and shut off her phone completely. We set alarms for the morning meeting with the detective. I placed the drive beside the printed docket and the receipt. The guard knocked twice in a pattern we now recognized. All clear on the hallway, he said through the door. I lay down and listened to the mechanical thrum nearby. It mixed with the guard's footfalls and my own breathing. A thought arrived simple and sharp enough to hold. Maybe love isn't obedience, maybe it is protection. I handed the drive to the detective across the table. He plugged it in and scrubbed through frames fast. There, he paused on the mailbox tool and timestamp. Warrant referral goes today, he said, eyes already moving. We signed supplemental statements and checked the service log. The protection order sat verified for all listed numbers. Expect a flare after the league notice hits, he warned. I braced for it and kept my hands still on purpose. Across town, the advocate joined us near the courthouse steps. She held a copy of the league suspension letter. Coach received it and confirmed temporary removal, she reported. Lily read twice, then folded it once with care. My phone vibrated on the table with an unknown caller. I let it roll and watched the transcript populate. It threatened to contest the order at the earliest slot. I forwarded it to the detective without commentary or delay. Storage unit next, I said, and everyone agreed. We met 2 officers at the entrance and signed entry forms. A manager led us down a line of metal doors. Our lock dangled cut fresh and ugly, and my stomach tightened. The officer snapped photos and waved the manager back. Inside, boxes were open like someone had rummaged. On top lay a printed invoice for cash payment. I recorded serial numbers and filmed the state of things. Footsteps approached at the end of the corridor. Dan turned the corner with a receipt in his fist. Unit is paid, access is mine, he announced to the air. The officer stepped forward and planted a clear boundary. Order prohibits contact and interference, the officer stated flat. Dan lifted both hands like a performance for an invisible crowd. You can't ban a parent from lawful property, he argued. The officer pointed at the paper and did not move. Lily stood behind me and tightened her grip on the folder. Take what you need quickly, the officer told me. I stacked documents and a few essentials into a bin. Dan hovered at the threshold and laughed without making sound. He called out to Lily over the officer's shoulder. Come home and this ends now, his mouth barely shifted. She looked at the floor and then at my shoes. No, she answered clear and plain like dropping a weight. He turned away and punched a locker with his knuckles. The crack echoed and brought the manager running behind security. The officers stepped between us and the exit path. Leave now or be detained, one warned with zero softness. He backed off and pointed at me as he retreated. You cost everyone stability and pride, he spat toward the concrete. I kept pecking and felt the words slide past like static. The officer escorted him out and radioed for a patrol nearby. We finished quickly and rolled the bin to the car. The detective called as we buckled up for the ride. A judge signed an addendum blocking third-party messages, he said. Forward any aliases that pop up in. The next hour, we reached the hotel and changed rooms again by plan. Security walked the hall and logged their rounds on paper. Court has you on priority for violations, the manager added. I thanked her and felt the day sharpen for one more push. The league liaison requested a video call within 10 minutes. We accepted and aligned the laptop toward a blank wall. Lily listed the forged waiver and who collected it. The liaison took notes and promised a welfare desk follow-up. A new voicemail hit from a restricted source with a countdown. 2 hours to return calls or they visit work and school. I uploaded it to the case file and blocked the route. Then I powered down the handset and used Wi-Fi only. Mom texted from yet another number with short, jagged lines. He is family and you will regret this stunt. I answered with 7 words and nothing else at all. Do not contact us again under any pretext. Minutes later, a knock hit the door in a dull rhythm. Security announced their badge number through the peephole first. 3 individuals in the lobby requesting a welfare check. Not authorized, I replied and slid the order under the gap. Downstairs, voices rose and then flattened under policy language. The guard returned and relayed the conversation in bullet points. Hotel trespass issued for 2 of them, he said. The third left with a promise to call reporters. We packed the bin content into a small carry-on. I photographed every item and saved the images to cloud. The detective texted again with a fresh update. Assistant DA filed tampering for the mailbox incident. An hour later, my email pinged with the court schedule. Hearing on contempt set for midweek at 9. I replied confirmed and added the advocate to the thread. Lily watched my hands and relaxed one notch. The rideshare dropped us at the credit union again. We moved the remaining funds into the new account. I shredded the old debit card at the counter. The clerk looked up once and wished us good luck. Back at the hotel, a final message arrived from Mom. It asked if I could forgive and reset expectations. The words tugged hard and tried to blur the day. I forwarded it to the advocate and did not respond. League compliance sent an email with a clear instruction. No direct contact through staff, volunteers, or player channels. Report any pressure immediately for enforcement under policy. I printed it and tucked it behind the protection order. Evening approached and the hallway stayed uneventful. I ordered simple food and kept the door chained. We ate fast and left nothing for later arguments. Full stomachs make harder choices feel less impossible. The detective called once more with a practical request. Switch numbers tonight and keep the old line frozen. I walked to the carrier kiosk with security trailing. The clerk swapped the SIM and wiped the contacts clean. As we returned, Lily stopped beside the lobby bench. I want to block them all now, she said softly. We sat together and removed every name from her list. She breathed out and let the phone rest in her lap. Back upstairs, I opened a new message window and typed. No contact going forward, do not text or call again. All communication must go through counsel or officers. I sent it to Mom and watched the status turn delivered. Dan responded from an unfamiliar account within a minute. 3 short lines promised lawyers, coaches, and gossip. I forwarded it to the detective with a note. Final warning recorded, his reply reads short and solid. We stacked our documents on the desk in neat order. Protection, bank letters, league notices, storage photos. I taped the room number on the back of the folder. If we moved again, it would not get left behind. Lily stood and stretched and looked toward the door. Are we really done? She asked, voice steady but cautious. We're done with them, I answered, each word heavy and chosen. She nodded and placed her phone face down for good. My screen lit with one last unknown message and a threat. It predicted we would need them by winter or sooner. I blocked it and felt the quiet rise inside me. The silence wasn't empty, it was mine. I opened the window a few inches and listened to the street. No truck, no forced welfare check, no staged emergency brewing. I closed it and set the latch with a firm push. This was the smallest boundary and also the biggest. We laid out clothes for morning and zipped the carry-on. The guard tapped twice and gave the all-clear signal. I wrote a line in my notes for future me. Don't argue with people who enjoy your fear. Before sleeping, I composed a message to the landlord. Forward all mail to the new address starting tomorrow. Deliver any packages only with signature verification. His reply came back confirmed with a time-stamped receipt. I powered down the old phone and wrapped it in tape. It would live in the safe for 30 days. If anyone pinged it, the logs would help the case. I shut the safe and felt my chest finally unlock. Lily reached for my hand and squeezed once, then twice. We made it through today, she murmured into the stillness. Tomorrow we keep going, I said and meant it. Outside, the elevator chimed and drifted away. My laptop screen dimmed and reflected our outlines faintly. 2 people not running, building something that holds. I thought about the first door in the last text. I turned off the light and kept the no contact clean.